Welcome back to Against the Cage, your MMA home for all the fight previews, recaps, and exclusive interviews that I know you're looking for, so make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that stuff. My name is Jake Aryeh. I'm here with my co-hosts Scott Fontana and Erich Richter, and guys, as I mentioned, we do recaps. This is the biggest recap of the year because we are dishing out our 2025 MMA Awards. Got a trophy right here. The Cagies, some would call it. It's a working title. If you have any thoughts down in the comments below on what we should call our awards, we'll just call them the Against the Cage Awards for now. But Scott, Erich, you guys excited to dive into what 2025 was and dish out some awards?
Feeling
Let's do
festive,
it.
looking festive.
There we
Let's
go.
do it.
I see the llama sweater. I love it. But guys,
Yes.
let's start out with these awards. Why don't we start off with the big one, the Fighter of the Year? And Erich, I'm going to throw this one to you. Who do you have as your 2025 Fighter of the Year?
I went back and forth on this one. I think, we had talked about Joshua Van quite a bit, but I'm actually going the other way. I'm going to go, even coming off of a loss, Merab Dvalishvili was the story of mixed martial arts this year. Merab defends his title, or attempts to defend his title 4 times, loses the last one to Piotr Jan over here in December. I would definitely, any other arguments, I think that there are some, but Merab was a story of the year. He was so active. He was the talk of the sport for most of the year. At 135 pounds, Merab Dvalishvili accomplished things that no one in mixed martial arts has accomplished. It was, it's only a year-long title reign, but it's as impressive as any. You could stack it up against anything. Merab Dvalishvili is my male fighter of the year.
Scott, what about you? Who you got?
Yeah, I would echo that too. I will say I nearly gave this to Joshua Van. I was really close. But as I was sorting through what I wanted to say about it, I just couldn't justify the wonderful year that he had over what Merab had done in, the fighting spirit, his accomplishments. I mean, the fact that he had 3 successful title defenses. I am pretty sure no one else had more than 2. So
Yep.
that puts him already in rarefied air. He was going for a 4th, which was just crazy awesome that he was going to do that. Obviously, Pirion, he dethroned him as champion of the bantamweight division, but he does not take away that male fight of the year. That's still Merab.
Yeah, we are going 3 for 3 on Merab Dvalishvili. Like you said, I mean, he 3 title defenses in 1 year. He could have just stopped there and walked away with this one with zero argument whatsoever. I don't think the loss takes that much away from it. So, as one would say on your Couchside Judges podcast, the trophy is coming in the mail. Merab Dvalishvili, you'll be getting your KG award soon, or whatever you want to call it. But let's go on.
Blame the postman if it doesn't come. It's always the postman, not us.
Exactly. Yes. There we go.
We'll see it around the holidays.
But Scott, I'm going to kick it back to you for our female fighter of the year. Who do you think is the woman of the year for 2025?
I think it has to be Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, you can make a minority case maybe for like Mackenzie Dern, who kind of obviously became a champion, and I don't think anyone really had that in the cards when the year started, but there were different circumstances there. Valentina, I mean, even in a storied career such as hers, I think 2025 might have actually been her finest year. First beating Manon Fiorot, who, honestly looked like the best woman to get in the cage with Shevchenko in probably some years. And look, apologies to Alexa Grasso there. They had that 1-1-1 series, but this is how I feel. I do feel like Fiorot was actually a tougher fighter, not necessarily the tougher fight. That honestly though, that was a big way to remind everybody just how great she was. And then she goes out there, end of the year, wins a legacy building super fight against Zhang Wei Li, who was obviously a dominant, basically it was champion versus champion, strawweight champion. And in doing so, she did it just so impressively too. I think Bullet showed that she's just got so much more left in the chamber, right?
Yeah, what do you think, Erich?
100%. 100% that she does. And, when I was going through this, like, my immediate thoughts were like, oh, probably Kayla Harrison. She probably made the most headlines this year. She's got, like, the personality and stuff like that. But just from, like, a merit-based perspective, she's only fought once this year. So it just kind of just takes her out of the running. Even if she was in the news, it doesn't really mean that she was meritly involved to be the fighter of the year. Has to be Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, you look at her 2025, you mentioned it against Manon Fiorot. Very good fight there, very good win for her. It was a close fight. and then obviously just bullied Zhang Wei Li at Madison Square Garden. We were there. It was something else, and she. I mean, you could probably make the argument that she's Woman Fighter of the Year many years, and I believe 2025 is another one of those years for one of the best female athletes ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going 3 for 3 again on this one. I also have Valentina Shevchenko, but to me, an honorable shout out would be Mackenzie Dern for I believe she had 2 wins this year, but one of them being a fantastic.
Yeah, she won at the beginning of the year. She had a nice win over Amanda Ribas.
Yes, with a fantastic armbar, and then of course clinching gold. So I would throw that in as an honorable mention there. But I mean, come on, the bullet pound for pound #1 versus pound for pound #2. It's pretty hard to beat there. But why don't we move on to the fight of the year? And I'll throw this one to Eric because I know your box office. So what do you have as your fight of the year?
Always box office. This one I had a lot of back and forth on. So for me, I'm going Jack Della Maddalena versus Bilal Muhammad. I know it's a Bilal Muhammad fight, but that's where I'm going with it. I thought it was so fun. It's a 5-round fight, which I think is important. I know Joshua Van versus Royval might get a vote or two from you guys. This is a 5-round fight, title fight, anyone's fight going into round 5. The stakes couldn't have been higher for the belt. And Jack Della Maddalena is caught in crucifix position, is able to get up with a really impressive Craig Jones style sweep. Obviously, we saw his takedown defense not hold up too well at Madison Square Garden, but regardless, doesn't matter. That fight was box office. That fight was fun. That fight was the fight of the year, in my humble opinion. Scott, let's hear it.
Look, title fight of the year. I would give you that for sure. But I am going to go to that other fight you mentioned. I'm going with Joshua Van against Brandon Royval. I've made no secret of it, right? I've kind of said this for weeks, and really going back to our mid-year episode as well, talking about this. I straight up love this fight. The nonstop violence. There was so much at stake, too. It wasn't a championship, but both these guys were fighting essentially maybe to get that title shot. It did happen for Joshua Van, and look, the circumstances he got his championship are what they are. He didn't necessarily prove he was better because of an injury to the champion that he took the belt from, but either way, he ended up taking something from that. But this fight in particular, I mean, UFC record for strikes landed in a 3-round fight. Third all time for strikes in any length UFC fight. They threw with bad intentions too. This wasn't just pitter patter. There were big moments. This is the fight that I would be willing to show like a new fan, be like, hey, someone who's sort of interested in getting into MMA, I think I'm gonna win you over if I show you this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I will have to go with, this was a tough one for me. I'm going to have to go with Van versus Royval, which I believe I also had for my mid-year awards. I was close. I was close to giving it to Aryeh versus Roundtree because I think in this category, I mean, they're all subjective, but I think this one more so than a lot of the other ones. It really depends on what you personally like as a good fight, right? Like, some people really like the comeback wins, and that's obviously what you get with the Aryeh versus Roundtree fight. But this one, just 3 rounds of just straight up throwing, and it was just fantastic. I mean, all the ones that we mentioned were definitely viable picks, and luckily we had a good 2025 of good fights. So
there were no losers among the people who watched this fight, unless you placed wagers on the losers of these fights. But really fantastic, I think. Obviously, we're looking at amazing fights either way, right?
Absolutely.
Hard to go wrong.
Absolutely.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov 1. I had that one in the running as well.
That was just a fantastic one.
Just to throw a PFL fight out there.
Yeah, keeping up with the box office, though, let's talk knockouts. Everyone's favorite. I'll throw this one over to you, Scott. What is your knockout of the year?
I think this is going to surprise you guys, actually. I think this is going to be the biggest curve we've had so far. Elijah Smith slamming Toshiomi Kazama. That was mine. I mean, we get exciting knockouts every year. We get rare knockouts. We get wild knockouts, and we get important knockouts. The truly rare ones, I think, are the scary ones. And this was scary. I was legitimately concerned for the well-being of Kazama when he absorbed that slam from Smith. Obviously, he brought it upon himself to some degree, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it was just so epic. All credit has to be due as well to Smith for giving us one of the most horrifying KOs in recent memory. And, you know, look, bright things are to come for Smith as well. So, hey, maybe he's got another knockout of the year in his future. We'll see.
All right. Eric, how about you?
That one was scary. That one actually slipped my mind a little bit. I think Mauricio Hoofy versus Bobby Green was knockout of the year. But that one really did slip my mind, Scott. That's a good shout out. I also had another one, Gustavo Oliveira versus Anas Azian, July 5th. It was a PFL event. Spinning back fist, out cold, was also a pretty scary one. Azian was out for quite a while, so that one was pretty crazy. So just those two, Mauricio Hoofy, I think is probably the most stylish, right? Kind of brings me back to the Anderson Silva crazy kick days. But yeah, that one was pretty wild. So two good ones there.
Mine is also Hoofy versus Green, and style points is the word that I was going to use for it. And I was close to giving it to Taporia against Oliveira. However, to the other vein, on the other side of the same coin, like for submission of the year, if there was a Gogo Plata, for instance, like just because it's a Gogo Plata, we would have to pick that one. Or I know Scott would feel very inclined on picking
I
that
sure
one,
would.
right?
I have no choice. It's not up to me.
No, it's not up to you, right? A spinning wheel kick, for me, it's like one of my favorite knockouts. Like my one of the videos that got me into MMA is, there's an expletive in there, but it's spinning word, and it's
What's the word? I don't know it.
Yeah, I don't even know it.
What is it? Carlos Condit and Nick Diaz. What are we
Spinning-ish.
Yes, spinning-ish. That video got me into MMA, and it starts off with Edson Barboza doing a spinning wheel kick. So spinning wheel kicks have a very special place in my heart.
Yes, it does bring back. Those days.
I had that as one you guys picked was as an honorable mention, Mauricio Hoofy. That was kind of my would have gotten into it otherwise. And also the fact that I feel sad that we couldn't actually give too much of a shout out to some of these great standing elbow knockouts that we had this year, like Lerone Murphy on Aaron Pico, which probably qualifies to just a very small degree as like a rally, like a comeback fight too.
Absolutely, that was a crazy. Those two fights, like back to back, just how could you write it any better, right?
Are we ever going to see Aaron Pico again after that? It's another question for another time, but I haven't heard a word. About
I
it.
say yes.
I say yes as well. But let's move on to submission of the year, and we'll throw it over to Erich, being the most accomplished grappler out of us three. Erich, what is your submission of the year?
Costello Van Steenis versus Johnny Ebling. 9 seconds left in the 5th round of a massive fight that he was definitely losing by decision. What a moment that was. I believe Scott was the one who messaged us like, "Oh my God, did you guys just see that?" We all had to jump back onto ESPN Plus to watch it after the fact. That one is submission of the year for me. There's good ones out there too, Sean Brady versus Leon Edwards, but that one is number one for me. And honestly, the stakes, 5th round, there's no way I could go anywhere else. But Scott, I'll throw it to you.
So it goes without saying that the ninja choke by Jean Silva on Bryce Mitchell was slick, right? Great submission in and of itself. Great highlight in a vacuum for him. But this one had the extra juice, okay? You have Bryce Mitchell coming off of his absolutely moronic, disgusting little love letter to Adolf Hitler, of all people, on his dopey little podcast, which also included him spouting Holocaust denial and hate toward other religious and other minority groups. That was always fun, right? Even Dana White had to come out and nip that in the bud and decry what Mitchell said, which, I mean, thinking of all the crazy things that fighters say that Dana just kind of shakes off and doesn't worry about, it takes something for that to happen, right? Didn't stop him from continuing the business arrangement that between Mitchell and White and the UFC and all that, but I digress. At the end of the day, that still allowed us to have this opportunity to enjoy watching this hateful loser get some measure of comeuppance. So obviously this is an unorthodox rationale for this award. I'll grant you that. But I can do what I want. It's my award.
Fair enough, and that is definitely a valid one. I think I could speak for all three of us as a good moment of 2025. However, I am going to side with Erich on this one. Obviously a rear naked choke it's a different type of giving an award rather than, say, the spinning heel kick knockout. Rear naked choke is the most common submission of any of the MMA submissions. But, I mean, in a title fight, come back victory as well. I'm sure we'll see that in our awards coming up later as well. But my gosh, I mean, everything around it, it is the most important submission, I would say, of the year, in terms of he the only way he was going to win that fight was from that rear naked choke. So that's why it's my submission of the year.
I'll give you another honorable mention too before we move on, if we were about to. Walter Walker, 3 heel hooks in 90 seconds or less. I mean, how do we not call that out? You can't pick one, but you got to highlight all 3. I think the body of work almost gets him submission of the year.
Absolutely. Fair. Yeah, I mean, 3 in a row, like, come on now. Pretty good.
And it's really 4 in a row. It's just that there were 3 this year.
yes, 4 in a row.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
We're only limiting it to this calendar year, right? But it's even more impressive when you add that in. So if you award it to just a person and not one single one, I think it has to be him.
Shades of
submission artist of the year.
Yes, I think we could give him that one.
Submission artist of the year.
Shades of Paul Harris, but much nicer.
Yeah.
Not
a lot kinder. Yes.
A lot kinder. What's Paul Harris' first
not
name?
Trying to rip it off.
It's Husamar Paul Harris.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
People would just call him Paul Harris, like the name Paul Harris.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are some great performances by Walter Walker. So that brings us into our next award, the Men's Performance of the Year. Scott, what do you have for your standout performance of 2025?
I went with Islam Makhachev against Jack Della Maddalena. I think what an extremely no doubt way to join that rare 2-division UFC championship club for Islam. You know, obviously he's starting to build his resume now. That could rival the likes of George St. Pierre and John Jones someday. And I think this was the type of thing. It's almost like a crown jewel for him. I don't know that we looked back at any one particular fight of his before that and said, well, this was his most dominant win. I think now we have that. JDM, obviously, he, not a well-established champion coming into this one, right? But he was the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy and so forth, right? That's a big deal. This isn't just they lined up somebody or he just beat somebody who got lined up. This was the champion. 25 minutes of essentially winning every single moment of the fight for Makhachev. It's hard to deny just how impressive this was. And obviously, we got to see it live in person, right? For all of us. So I don't know if maybe I'm a little slanted in that way, but it was just a virtuoso.
Yeah, absolutely. A sweat flying on Scott Fontana's face, cage side. Eric, what do you got?
Not quite that close, but.
So when I dove in, I was trying not to be have recency bias here, but I'm just still so in awe of what Petr Yan did to Merab Dvalishvili as such a big underdog. Is plus 500. Petr Yan. I mean, what can't you say about it? He dominated the striking. He got way better. He's the title champ. He's champion now for the second time, a second reign. He dominated that fight from start to finish, 25-minute domination. And even though there was some scorecards didn't agree with mine, I believe I had it 50-45 or 49-46. I didn't think it was particularly close. I know that one judge believed it was 48-47. I don't know how you get that, but Petr Yan just landed such significant damage on Merab from the very out of the bell. Merab was coming forward and striking, and then you could tell Yan landed one strike that really hurt him in the chin, and you could see the look on Merab Dvalishvili's face change. So from my perspective, Petr Yan comes in and he honestly has an argument for some other awards on here, but for me, I'll go performance of the year, a flawless performance as a massive underdog. I have to give it to Petr Yan.
Yeah, I'll go a quick aside too before you, Jake, because I just want you mentioned the scoring or whatever. I had round 2 for Merab. That was the only round I actually gave him, but it was round 1 was the unanimous round on the scorecards. So me personally, I'm willing to defer to the judges' cage side and just say, hey, maybe they saw things that we didn't. That's how I can at least get 48-47. But yeah, there's no calculus for a victory for Merab Dvalishvili. Dominant fight from Petr Yan too. Awesome. I like that shout.
Yeah, mine is also Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. He just looked like the best bantamweight in the world on that night, and we were coming into that night thinking that there was absolutely no way that Merab Dvalishvili wasn't the best bantamweight in the world. Completely turned things around. Met all the expectations that people have previously had for him. Like Scott, for instance, in his first title reign, everyone's expecting a long reign and all these things, and he finally lived back up to those expectations, all in that one performance. And I think that spoke for itself. But my goodness,
there's so many good ones on this one too. Like I was so back and forth on a lot of these. Like Reiner de Ritter versus Bo Nichols, a really good one. There's a lot of really.
That
good
was
ones,
a really good shout.
Yeah, this is a title shot, so I gave it to Piotr Jan, but there's a lot of options here, especially De Ritter, also huge underdog, etc.
I'll give you an honorable mention too. It's my guy, the Gooch, Kyoji Horiguchi, going out there and just laying the wood to Tahir Bekov, man. Yep. That was an impressive performance.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Whole fight, and another big underdog who came in there and looked like a -1,000 favorite from the very bell.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought they were those odds were stupid though. I'm sorry. I didn't know what the odds were, but he should not have been that deep of an underdog. Maybe a close, like you guys, no one knew but the Gooch apparently, guys. Come on, you got to pay attention.
Scott
almost forgot.
Gooch connoisseur.
I must have forgot. That's right.
Yes. But we will get to the upset of the year later on. However, first we got to talk about the women's performance of the year. And Eric, what do you got for the woman performance of the year?
So this is where I gave it to Kayla Harrison. We only saw her once, but she dominated Juliana Perez pretty impressively. And if that says anything about their upcoming fight against Amanda Nunes, again, I wish we saw more of Kayla Harrison this year. I feel like one fight didn't quite do her the justice that I think that she deserved. She's even talking about her contract now. I'm not exactly sure where she's going to be in 2026, and we didn't see a lot of her in 2025. But this one performance, the second round win over Juliana Pena, I thought was dominant. It was real dominant, and that was a fun one.
Absolutely.
Well, we're gonna see, Kayla Harrison in just about a month from this week. So there's at least that, right? So we'll start with that. But yeah, I also went with the same fight as you. I think the way she dominated Juliana Pena was just we sort of expected it, right? I think there was some degree of, okay, I think we're waiting for a bit of a coronation here, but she still went in there. And as much as she has to suck all that weight out of her, she is a large woman for that weight class. And she's still able to go in there and dominate a two-time champion the way she did to reach that peak. I'm starting to think if maybe I was a little biased too, because like I said, I had another one that I saw in person. This one we saw in New Jersey instead of New York. But she did cement herself as one of the most destructive female forces in UFC history, I think, with this particular victory. Getting the tap via Kimura too in 2025, that is such a boss move. I really like that too.
And you know what, Scott, I'm not sure actually if it was biased first, because so I'm in the same boat as you guys, by the way. I'm picking Kayla Harrison, Juliana Pena. I mean, I don't have too much to add that you guys already have in pure domination. However, we also saw an amazing women's fight in Madison Square Garden. Valentina Shevchenko over Zhang Weili. For me, that was really the only other one that I was picking between. We got to see both of those live. So, I mean, pretty lucky for us three, but
I'll give you a dark horse that we didn't attend. How about that, guys? I'm going to give you one we actually weren't there for.
Okay.
Bia Mesquita just trashing Irina Alekseeva. I mean, that is the way you make a UFC debut, especially from the grappling world, which she was very dominant in. I am very intrigued to see where she goes, because she went out there and just 10-8'd the heck out of Alekseeva and then finished her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could certainly be a title contender in that division, no doubt.
Yes.
Maybe quickly too.
Yeah. Highly thought of in the grappling world, no doubt.
And she's a little older. She's kind of like Kayla Harrison. They're in their 30s. She's not around for a long time. She's here for a good time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. You got to capitalize on that quick. So yeah, agree. Mesquita did look really good in that fight.
Looking forward to some more performances from her. But let's talk about the rally of the year. A comeback within a fight. Down on the cards potentially, comes back to win it all. Eric, I'm going to throw this over to you. What is your rally of the year?
Well, I'm not happy about it. I'll be honest. I'm not happy about it. It still drives me nuts. But you know what? Drew Dober did what Drew Dober does. He beat Kyle Prepelic in round 3, down clearly 20-18 on the scorecards. Kyle Prepelic looked awesome in that fight as a plus 400 underdog. Drew Dober fouls Kyle Prepelic bad, Prepelic was winning and had the cardio advantage. He wasn't tired, etc. Drew Dober was really slowing down. And then a break in the action. Prepelic has to sit for about 2 minutes. It was either an eye gouge or a groin strike, I forget. But that man, it was so bad that Dober even got a point deducted, and so he was done. Like, he was definitely losing the fight by decision. I believe there's only 3 or 4 minutes left in the fight, and Drew Dober just sprints at him as fast as he possibly can, runs at him, and gets the finish within a minute after the stoppage, after the penalty stoppage. Super frustrating from a betting perspective. I had Preplik plus 400. I thought it was a win. I was feeling good about it. I'm sure a lot of my other fellow bettors out there thought it was a dub, and it was to be forgotten. Drew Dober with a comeback of the year with some interesting circumstances involved.
Maybe an asterisk here or there. Scott, what do you got?
15 asterisks.
So that one to me feels just a little more emotional, Eric. I'm gonna give you one that's a little
100%.
less, and
I
maybe
will
more, a
fully
little more on the sideline. Yeah.
I'm still mad.
So, but I'm actually gonna shout out the one that you guys have already mentioned here, Costello Van Steenis against Johnny Eblen. I thought there was stiff competition here, particularly with Yuri Prohashka coming back to beat Khalil Roundtree Jr. That was an amazing comeback as well. But I think this, you just, like you said before, it's a championship fight. The stakes couldn't be higher. And honestly, it's almost impossible to top a rally with a submission victory and just 7 seconds left in the fight that you're definitely going to lose on the scorecard. Almost definitely, right? I mean, maybe there's some sort of, 10-8 situation, but we're looking at, knowing what we had of the scorecards, it was going to be a split decision lost if it went there, and it was just a 10-9 round. So this happening in the championship fight only enhances the drama. PFL's middleweight division, it just got a lot more interesting in 2025. And it was because of exactly what Costello Van Steenis was able to do in that 5th round. So that's the rally of the year for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just got announced that he's fighting, his next title fight got announced, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Fabian Edwards, they're going to fight in Madrid.
Yes. So absolutely.
I believe March.
This was a tough one for me, and I don't know if it's necessarily the right way to go about it in terms of, it was between the submission of the year and the rally of the year for me picking this fight. Could have easily gone for both, but I had to give Yuri versus Roundtree some love. I mean, going into that 3rd round, it's like, my gosh, are we going to see Yuri Prohaska lose via decision? Like, that doesn't feel like something that ever happens. Nope. He comes
feels
in.
Wrong.
Yeah, it feels wrong, right? Comes back, knocks out Khalil Roundtree, and I mean, my gosh, like, this guy's aura keeps growing and growing. Is there nothing that, like, he can't do? I mean, it was picture perfect. It's just the most Yuri thing to do.
Could we get him
And
a
not
Czech
for
Republic?
nothing too. This comeback that you're talking about here, like, yes, it could have gone to the cards, but like, at the very least, it wasn't like, oh man, he's just gonna get decisioned. It was some sort of like, oh, he got outpointed or whatever. Like, Khalil Roundtree was laying wood to him too, man. Like, this was a good fight.
Yes.
So when
Yes.
you had a good fight as well, that also has a comeback in it.
Yeah.
I think to support you, I think it really enhances the drama of the rally.
Yeah, that's something I failed to mention. What were you saying before, Eric, as well?
Roundtree very inefficient with his energy there. Obviously, he was going for a finish in the first 2 rounds, but holy God, did he gas out in that 3rd round. Woo! Like, that is just one of the weirdest, most bizarre crash outs of cardio in a 3-round fight that you'll see from someone who's fought 5 rounds before, by the way. Someone who's actually gone the distance of championship rounds. Oh, my Lord. It was something to behold. Yuri Prohaska gets all the credit for that, of course. The body
Not for
shots.
nothing, too. Johnny Eblen was the same thing. He was starting to fade in that fight as well. Maybe not to the same degree, and it was later into a fight. There was much more minutes in that fight. But yeah, I think that almost underscores kind of that you need a little bit sometimes of a little bit of a fade sometimes for them to be able to surpass, right? That cardio is such an important thing in MMA. We stress it all the time, and that underscores it.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the comeback fighter of the year, not within a single round, the 2025 comeback fighter of the year, someone who is maybe a little bit down on their luck coming in and turn things around. Scott, who is your comeback fighter of the year?
This is where I have finally highlighted a man you have already pointed out a few times, Piotr Jan. And it's not like he was coming back from a big injury. He wasn't cast out of the UFC. Yeah, he actually went 2-0 last year, so it's not even like he didn't have a little momentum coming into the year. But I think to wind up as champion again, by the end of this year. That didn't even look very realistic, even coming off of his first fight of the year, the victory he had, the competitive decision victory he had over Marcus McGee. I don't think anyone came off that being like, man, he looks ready to take that title back. That was not the feeling I got coming off of that. So I think what we're really talking about, the comeback fighter of the year, we're looking all the way back to the point where he did lose 4 of those 5 fights. Basically, since that time, you highlighted, Jake, you reminded everybody that, yeah, I really thought this guy was like on his way to a really impressive reign. And then the bottom fell out. I think what you have, though, is you have fights that in that period, we've talked about it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, you can kind of look at them in a different light. But either way, it's a heavy mental toll on Petr Yan for him to get through that, to weather that storm and look dominant against a dominant champion in Merab, who had handed Yan really the only real bad loss of his career so far just 2 years ago. It's all poetic. I thought it was amazing. That is a comeback fighter for me.
All righty. Eric, what do you got?
I thought that this would be a 3 for 3, honestly. I'll go Kyle Dawkins. Philly's own, out of the UFC, lost to Eric Anders, had to work his way back from CFFC, not main eventing in CFFC at first. He comes out there, he gets 4 wins in CFFC, and comes back. He beats Michel Pereira in the first round. He submits
by knockout.
Yeah. Unbelievable, right? Overhand right on Michel Pereira. In the knockout, not a knockout specialist, but he beats Michel Pereira in his first fight, and then Gerald Mearshart almost immediately we were there. Darce choke. We talked to him about it after the fact. Kyle Dawkins deserves every bit of the flowers that he has gotten in the UFC. He's back and he looks different. He looks better. I'm impressed. And I'm shocked that we're not going to be 3 for 3 on this one. Kyle Dawkins, the fact that he's back in the UFC, the Darce Knight, baby, we're back. He's the comeback fighter of the year.
Look, I had him as my honorable mention. So I think if I didn't have Petr Yan, who I think arguably made an impressive career comeback, if not just an annual comeback from some of those circumstances that we mentioned earlier. But also I want to put out there, not only did he get that submission of GM3, it was with those hands. Like you said, he's not known as a knockout guy. Now he's getting known as an everything guy. He's a really impressive story. And I'm very curious what this second UFC run is going to lead to for him. I love the shout.
I like both of your guys' shouts. I will say, however, for the reason why I didn't go with Petr Yan is because I feel like his comeback really started last year, right? He got those 2 wins.
That's
he started
fair.
turning things around. So I couldn't bring myself to give it to him, although the comeback continued into this year, should we say. And that's very much valid enough a reason to pick him. And then, obviously, you guys just talked about Kyle Dawkins. I am going with Benoit Saint-Denis. His 2024, not great. Knockout loss to Dustin Poirier, and coming into that fight, everyone was expecting big things of him. Going into title contention. If he won that fight, very much possible that he could have gotten that title shot. Then gets absolutely mauled by Renato Moicano in Paris. And then this year, he's got 3 wins. So for me, I feel like he completely turned things around. It was not looking good for him at the end of that Renato Moicano fight. He's lost twice viciously in a row, basically completely fell out of the title conversation when he was that close to getting into it. And those 3 wins this year, how much more could you ask for? So for me, Benoit Saint-Denis is my 2025 comeback fighter of the year.
Quality pick, Jake.
Thank you very much. This was the one that I was passionate about, by the way, in our pre-production.
I was surprised no Alexander Volkanovski shout out. I understand that he didn't beat Ilia Topuria to get the belt back, but that was my second.
Well, hey, we're shouting him out now.
Hey, winning the championship again at his age, we're now starting to see that's a little more. There's precedent for it, but you're right. I think that's another shout out too. I love it. There's a lot of great candidates. This is a great year for comeback stories, I think.
Yes, the Gooch in a literal sense coming back to the UFC. So that's another option right there.
That's another one.
I mean, you even had, I think we talked about this in pre-production and that kind of thing. Like you had Alex Pereira who loses his title and then he gets it back. He had his comeback within the same year, right? I think you would put that out there, Jake.
Yes, that is true. And I was like, okay, well, maybe.
if you had Alex Pereira to end 2025 with the light heavyweight belt, what an up and down year. He started with it, he
You were
lost it, and then
sweating.
he got it back. What an up and down year.
Yes, absolutely. And oh my god, imagine Marab. That would have been tough for someone. Oh. But let's get into our next category, our breakout fighter of the year. Scott, who is your breakout fighter of the year? Someone who started off maybe not so much in the public eye, but their performances or whatever reason put them near the top. What do you got?
So what I went with here was more the idea of they put themselves in a new stratosphere by the end of this year than they started with, and I think to an important degree, and that's why I went with Peyton Talbot here. I think the fact that he got this win this month, it boosted exactly what he needed to do to get into the rankings, to raise his profile in a new way. Just the way he beat Henry Cejudo as well, getting those takedowns, making those faces, and showing like this was the type of thing that showed that he's got the whole package. He's got the talent. He has the size for his weight class. I mean, maybe I don't even know if he could stay there forever, but I don't know if he's a bantamweight all told. But for now, at least, I think he at least erased some of that stink that he had from the bad odor, that surprising loss he had to Houndy Barcelos at the beginning of the year. This has helped him shave the prospect label. From here on out, we're watching Peyton Talbot, dangerous bantamweight contender. And can you really write off the idea of him holding gold this time next year? I cannot. I won't write that off.
Fair enough. Eric, how about you?
I love the Peyton Talbot shout, and I'd also just add on to it. Like he's also like pretty big on social media now. Like he's like going on Aiden Ross's show, and like he's got like the whole kind of like that just entire like age group where they're like on TikTok and they're doing the Twitch streaming and stuff. I'm not super into it, but I know like people like younger than me that are. So that's a good thing for Peyton Talbot to like be a part of. I know Sean O'Malley also similar one.
That's
So
a part of
Peyton
the
Talbot,
argument for him too as a breakout, I think. Exactly.
the personality is there, so that is a really good breakout option. I kind of went chalk here. I guess is the way that you look at it. I went Joshua Van. I didn't give Joshua Van any other award. I think that this one makes the most sense for him. Look, he fought 4 times and he ends the year with the title. Did he legitimately win the title via performance wise? Not particularly, but I think that I didn't really know who Joshua Van was coming into the year. I know that he lost to Charles Johnson. I believe I watched that
Not a
fight, but I
ton of
don't really.
people did.
Yeah, like I don't really remember that fight too well off the top of my head. It was on a female fight night, back in July. I think it was like 4th of July weekend. So I may or may not have even watched it. So for me, Joshua Van, 4 fights, all wins, had a fight of the year contender with Brandon Royval. It's kind of I mean, if you're following MMA, he's definitely a household name at this point from virtual obscurity prior. So yeah, Joshua Van, fighter, breakout performer of the year for me for sure.
I actually feel bad, Eric. I kind of would have had Joshua Van, but I had him initially as my fighter of the year. Like I mentioned, I was like really like writing it up and I changed my mind. So I think what I
Yeah.
didn't do is I didn't adjust and give this award back to because I didn't want to give them both. I don't know. I wanted to shout at somebody else. So I don't know. Can I have two? I'm gonna go co-breakout fighters of the year. Joshua Van's in there as
Stick
well
with
for all
your
of those
Peyton
reasons.
Talbot, man. I like that one. I'm jealous of it.
So
They can share it. It's all good.
mine is Joshua Van. So Scott, you can keep your Peyton Talbot, and that way we get the proper distribution. The reason why it's interesting to hear you say Peyton Talbot because that one hadn't really entered my mind, and I think I'm a little bit biased. And this goes to kind of what you were saying. I mean, I am the youngest one, and for me personally, I feel like I was already very aware of him, and my friends who do watch UFC, obviously not as much as the three of us do, they're very aware of Peyton Talbot and fans of him. So for me, he was already kind of in my mind as a notable fighter coming into this year. So maybe I'm a little bit biased there. But
Yeah, I'm a millennial. We're a little different, guy.
but for me, I mean, we were talking about Joshua Van in our mid-year awards, and I believe it was actually Eric that brought it up. He was like, I actually think you put him as your fighter of the half year. And you were like, guys, if he, because we knew at that point he was probably going to get the title shot. You're like, guys, he could end up being the fighter of the year. I wouldn't say he's my fighter of the year, but breakout fighter of the year, no doubt. And this one was a tough one. This was a really tough one. I mean, Michael Morales, how much were we talking about that guy after MSG?
He was my runner-up.
Waldo Cortez Acosta, that was another person who obviously I knew who he was as a heavyweight coming into this year, but like I couldn't tell you much about him. And then what he's done this year has been absolutely spectacular. So those are my shouts for the breakout fighter of the
Let's
year.
give another one more detail on Peyton Talbot. If you ever play the new UFC video game, Peyton Talbot is super popular if you're fighting at bantamweight. He's probably like the #1 most played character at men's bantamweight in the game. So just if you
I
can.
haven't played a lot of UFC, EA UFC 5. Is there like maybe a size element to it? Is it the fact that he's a little bigger too and has some skill? Okay.
That is a massive appeal. Yes.
I
It's
figured.
very frustrating. If I'll go in there with TJ Dillashaw like from like 2018 when he was the champion, and I'll get mauled by Peyton Talbot.
Sort of like Peyton Talbot did to Henry Cejudo. Yeah.
More or less, but imagine doing that to Henry in his prime.
How good is Raoni Barcelos?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But let's stick with this theme and talk about our top UFC rookie of the year, someone who came into this year and made their debut. Eric, who do you have for your rookie of the year for the UFC?
Okay, so I have a good one here. David Martinez, coming over from Combat Global, fought on the Contender Series in 2012, fought twice in the UFC. Both wins, one by first round finish, and then the second one was a decision win over Rob Font as a big underdog. I believe I actually picked against him, and I ended up being incorrect. David Martinez, really good leg kicks, solid striking, can grapple a little bit, defeating Rob Font, who's not. I don't look at Rob Font as washed. I mean, he's definitely taken a step back, but not washed. David Martinez comes in as a rookie to start the year, ends the year ranked at 135. He's number 11 on the rankings. So take the rankings for what you will, but for him to come in there, beat a ranked opponent like Rob Font and end the year ranked, it's got to be up there. So that's my pick is David Martinez.
Solid. Scott, how about you?
So before I give mine, I do have to make a correction here because I do not want Campbell McLaren to come after you, Eric. It is Combate Global.
Oh, Combate Global. Okay.
Combate Global. I'm rescuing you here. I'm giving you a life preserver. I promise. But my rookie is, and this probably won't even surprise you, Eric, based on our conversation last week. Yaroslav Amosov. Finally, this guy is exactly where he belongs. I said most of what I needed to say in that episode, but Amosov, he should have been here already, and he is a UFC rookie who already should be fighting ranked contenders, not necessarily the ones that are on the look to like the next fight's a title shot, but he's right there. I think the win he had over Neil Magny was massive. It was exactly what he needed to announce himself. So there's not much more to say other than there's more to come from him, and I can't wait to see it.
All right. Two very solid picks, and honestly, I'm not sure how much mine holds. If we are going for rookie of the year, I'm not sure how much mine compares to you guys, but I had to pick Ethan Ewing simply because of that debut. I mean, as far as UFC debuts go, I haven't, maybe it was because I was there that I'm also a little bit biased, but I mean, as far as debuts go, like this one got a lot of attention, whereas, you know, they typically don't, even with a win. Massive upset. What was it? 48 hours notice, basically. He comes in, makes weight. I thought it was spectacular. And
from across the country, too.
From across the country.
Here,
all the stuff coming out afterwards about you see him at the Anaheim Ducks game, getting a shout out there. You know, people who probably don't really know too much about MMA just being like, all right, yeah, let's go in the stands, just because it is so impressive. You know, 48 hours coming across the country doing what he did. Thought it was super cool.
Against a top prospect like Malcolm Wellmaker, who people really like.
Absolutely. So I just thought it was super impressive.
But the odds, as you recall, Eric, the odds were represented that they gave him a real chance on that one.
Oh, yeah. No, Wellmaker was was a smaller favorite against Ewing than he was against Cody Haddon, the Australian fighter that he was supposed to fight, who I actually was picking Haddon in that fight against Wellmaker. Haddon had a really good fight against Steve Erceg back in the day on the regional scene, and I liked Haddon in that fight. And then the Wellmaker Ewing odds came out. I was like, who is Ethan Ewing, and why is Wellmaker only minus 200 against a guy on 48 hours notice? Lo and behold, Ethan Ewing comes out victorious at MSG and is winning awards here. Unbelievable.
Yeah, just
the smart play was to pick against Malcolm Wellmaker in that fight, no matter who it was, apparently.
Yes, I'm taking the win.
Absolutely. Yeah, so for me it's just the storyline of that debut. Like there's not multiple things I could say about Ethan Ewing, obviously, but just really cool in my opinion. So I'm
gonna throw out one more honorable mention as well. Kevin Vachejos going 3-0 this year, picking up the win over Giga Chikadze in a very high-profile spot. I think that's going to position him to get a little bit of a push with that Latin American market as well. You're going to see a lot more of him, and deservedly so. He's done everything he needed to do to this point. So I'm curious to see where we see.
No matter how he does next year, I would say you're probably going to see him in September next year on a UFC card.
That would be stunning if he wasn't fighting on the weekend of roughly September 13th.
Yeah, whatever date it is, but he'll be there.
I thought that he was Argentinian.
Is he?
Latin American.
He is Latin American.
I said, I mean, Argentina is in Latin America, sir.
Yes. But, like, Mexican Independence Day is what we're referencing, right?
Yeah, but they like to stack them,
okay,
too.
Okay,
you know that.
Okay.
They're kind of all over the place with that. His nickname is El Chino. He's from Mexico City, guys.
Okay, never mind then.
But he does have an Argentine flag, but he fights out of Mexico City.
Okay.
So
we're all right. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty, silver lining there. Well, we're gonna take a tiny.
Sit back down, Jake.
I'm up in arms right now. We're gonna take a little bit of a more somber tone here now, and we're gonna go into the biggest loser of the year. Who lost the most in 2025? Eric, what do you got?
He didn't fight at all, and that's part of the issue. Francis Ngannou is my biggest loser of 2025. The guy could have fought Jake Paul for $30 million. Made no sense that he rejected that fight. Him and the PFL are on the outs. His contract is coming up next year. He has no takers, basically. Unless he fights Jake Paul, unless that magically comes available. But it sounds like Jake Paul is going to go back to
Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, maybe he could fight Deontay Wilder. Then he would be, not as big of a loser. I don't know if that would even happen anymore. Like, that knockout against Anthony Joshua was gross. Like, if anyone saw it, that was bad. Francis Ngannou has kind of rubbed everybody the wrong way over the past year. And I understand that, not everything has gone, super smoothly since he left the UFC. But for me, especially like the information coming out, Dana White saying, whatever he said about Francis Ngannou, and not exactly a denial from Francis. It all came up smelling bad for him, both in the octagon, outside the octagon. I just don't love how he's managed his career over the past 2 years.
Scott, what do you think?
And to add to that, before I get to mine, I mean, I believe it happened this year and not last year. He was in that motorcycle accident where the woman or the girl was killed in Africa. Like, no matter where he goes, it just seems like tragedy and awfulness is happening to him. Obviously, in no part did anyone have anything to do with the unfortunate death of his son a few years ago. That's neither here nor there. But it just seems like everything has just gone awful for Francis Ngannou, PR wise and otherwise for him, and including this year. So yeah, to your point, I think absolutely. I did go a different direction. I went with Arman Tsarukyan here, and I hate to say it, but I do think it is true, at least in my mind. He just did so much damage to his career with the way things shook out when he withdrew from that January title fight. He was supposed to fight Islam. I mean, people thought he might have had a chance to actually beat the #1 lightweight, the dominant champion at lightweight before he left the weight class. There was a little bit of intrigue to this one. We don't get it. It doesn't look like we ever will. Dana White has been particularly vindictive in the way he's publicly speaking about how Arman Tsarukyan can ever get back to the point of getting a title shot. It's to the point that it seems too emotional. And when you get emotion into the picture and not just merit or, doing the things you're supposed to do to get back to this point, just doesn't seem like he can do anything right. So he's in this weird no man's land that even though he beat Dan Hooker last month, really dominant, impressive performance there, just doesn't seem like it's doing him any favors. And I think ultimately that is the MMA as a sport, it is worse off for it. So that stinks.
Yeah, it was kind of coming out of that Dan Hooker fight. At least for me, it felt like the fans are like, all right, cool. So like, he got that one fight that you were talking about. Like, he needs to do that one more fight. He's going to get a title shot next, right? And Dana was like, not so much. With no promise of anything down the road either. He's not even like, just not this one. He's got to do the next one. It's like, we're just still waiting. It's really just dangling him out there. And it's almost cruel and in a way that it goes beyond what we usually see from Dana toward his own fighters. 100%. He's being, I'm not sure if you said this already, but like, he's being made an example of, essentially. is what it
Oh
seems
yes,
like
but
to me.
to a high degree, yeah. There's vindictiveness here for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're pretty upset. They're not getting over that anytime soon, it doesn't seem.
Yeah, I like both of your shouts. However, for me, one stuck out to me, and that was Leon Edwards. And the reason for that is just because, I mean, obviously last year he lost the title, but I mean, coming out of that fight, he was, the number one contender, as you are, not number one contender, ranked number one, as all champions are when they lose. And I mean, that loss to Sean Brady back in the spring was a tough one. I mean, just really got steamrolled in that fight, and then knockout loss in Madison Square Garden. He came into this year, not looking too bad, and then taking those two finishes in a row. He's really just kind of out of the title picture. So a very fast fall from the title picture, I would say. So I felt like he had the most downward trajectory throughout the year. Especially as a former champion, like very recently. So that's why he stuck out to me.
I'll throw Patchy Mix out there in the same
Yeah.
vein.
Yeah,
He came
that was
over
my
with so
second.
much. I thought he was gonna fight for the title. I thought he could gone in there and gotten a number one contender fight, or even if they really wanted to go crazy, they could have thrown him in there. I wouldn't have loved that, like a title shot off the bat. But man, I mean, I don't want to say fumbled the bag. He fought two really hard guys, especially one that was not as heralded, but was still really good. But yeah, he is in a rough spot career wise. He's got a lot of climbing up to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more from me. Movsar Evloev for all the same reasons that you kind of mentioned for Arman Sarukian, but like for lack of a reason, like that one's honestly.
And his dates back to the previous year. That's like if we're
Yeah.
talking about Arman next year.
Yeah, it's like why? He I mean,
Well, he can't get into the cage. That's part of it.
That is part
That's
of the
a little bit
reason.
his own doing,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And then Eric, I mean, from a betting angle, is there a name that sticks out to you?
For what?
Loser of the year, Isaac Dolgarian, perhaps.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, like I said, loser of the year from my perspective, anyone that anyone that loses me money. No, Isaac Dalgarian's a good one. Anyone that loses me money is the loser. Isaac Dalgarian's one. Let me think. Who else lost me a bunch of money this year? Drew Dober, man, or Kyle Perlick, I guess I give him. I'm still mad about that one. There's a couple. Patchy Mix is definitely one that stung.
Yeah.
Although I did fade him. Who is the KSW fighter that was the rookie of the year?
Glach.
He was a nice winner for me. So I guess, yeah, Patchy Mix is another one.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll look on the positives coming into 2026. But guys, let's talk about the event of the year. Which event, UFC or otherwise, I believe we were open to, but let's see what we pick. Scott, what is your event of the year?
It's UFC. It's gonna be UFC 317. Like it hosted my fight of the year, which I already mentioned is Van versus Royval. It hosted the biggest win of anybody in the year, which I did not mention, but you guys have Ilia Topuria becoming the 2 division champion at lightweight. That giant knockout of Charles Oliveira, I think that carried so much buzz and so much weight coming out of International Fight Week. It was a really, really great time of excitement for the UFC, which was very important for the UFC as they're going through their negotiation process to try and find their TV deal too. So look, great year for pay-per-view events on the whole, in the final year of pay-per-view events as far as we know. So I think I'm going to look back at this one best though. Shout out to UFC 314 though. That was a good one too, as far as ones that I didn't attend in person.
Eric, how about you? What was yours? Your favorite event of the year?
Yeah, I'm definitely going UFC 322. Jack Della Maddalena versus Makhachev at Madison Square Garden. Obviously, a little bit of bias here. Was in the arena, was super fun. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to him, and I'm gonna give it because I thought that the entirety of the card was so good, especially with like Michael Morales for Sean Brady as a third fight. You had Kyle Dawkins, as I mentioned. There's just it was a really, really stacked card from top to bottom. We've mentioned Valentina Shevchenko against Zhang Weili a bunch today. Obviously, your fight of one of the fights of the year was Jack Della, or your fighter of the year was Islam Makhachev. Obviously, in no small order due to that
performance of the year. That's one.
Performance.
Sorry, performance of the year. My mistake. Regardless, MSG card was electric. It was really fun and it was packed. So, yeah, I'll take that one.
also gonna go with 322. Those 4 knockouts in a row, which I mean, I it's unfortunate that we were all locked in the. If we knew that there was gonna be 4 crazy knockouts in a row, maybe would have snuck out. But I mean, it was while people were up on the microphone, you could just hear
You never know.
You could just hear the
Yeah.
well, people are trying to be quiet. 4 in a row. I was like, dang man, like I wish I could be out there, but it was a pretty cool experience nonetheless. I will say 311 could have beaten this out had Arman Sarukian made weight.
Yes.
That one I was looking at being
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that this is our main card that we're looking at. Like it was, and then Hanato Moicano.
It's anticlimactic to have Islam Makhachev do everything that we thought he would do to Hanato Moicano inside of a round. So the late replacement, they did what they could, but yeah, I think that it did end not with a whimper, but just with a little bit of thought so.
Yeah. So if that fight had happened, obviously it would have depended on how that Arman Sarukian fight would have gone, but I don't see a scenario where like it was just it would have been so competitive, I think, in terms of number 1 versus number 2. That could have done it. But alas, life is life. UFC 322, not a bad one to pick for event of the year. So yeah, that's my pick of the year. And Eric, I'm gonna go to you for the upset of the year. You're the betting guy, of course. What, in your opinion, was the biggest upset of 2025?
It wasn't the biggest in terms of odds, but for me, and I feel like everyone in the building, Ethan Ewing versus Malcolm Wellmaker was unbelievable. And just the performance that Ewing was taking all of Wellmaker's shots, who's known as a knockout artist, and was able to withstand them all, keep coming forward, volume, pressure, wrestling, striking, the whole thing. It all came up for Ethan Ewing in that fight. Again, not the biggest underdog that we saw hit all year, but what an upset that was. And I just remember just being there, just being like, what just happened? What was that? I think the biggest title, fight upset was Piotr Jan versus Merab Dvalishvili, and I think that's very, well deserving here as well. Just for me personally, Ethan Ewing coming in on 48 hours notice was just shocking. So I'll go with that one. But again, Piotr Jan versus Merab Dvalishvili, got no beef with that one either, especially when you consider the odds.
Yeah, mine is actually Piotr Jan versus Merab Dvalishvili, and I don't really know how much else there is to say about it. I feel like we've got it covered. But Scott, I'm very curious. What is your upset of the year?
I had the same as you, Jake,
Yeah.
but and like you said, there's not a whole lot more I can add other than it's a reminder of do not write off talented fighters like Peter Yan, who clearly have a lot of years left in the tank and have already shown what they can do. That's the reminder. Do not forget that. But I could hardly have conceived it. I saw narrow pathways, but basically just wasn't expecting anything like this. I will do honorable mention here, though, too. Raoni Barcelos getting the win over Peyton Talbot. That was a big upset. Big.
In terms of the odds, yeah, that was crazy big, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
and how good is Raoni Barcelos, right, Jake?
Yeah, exactly. How good is Raoni Barcelos? No, it was close
that's,
to like.
That's one of the best things. It's one of the best things Henry Cejudo's ever said. It was very funny.
That was very good. It was close to.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah.
Barcelos was plus 750 on that fight.
That's what I was getting at. It was close. We're
huge odds. Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, Talbot I think was like
probably
minus
out of whack. I think knowing what we knew, obviously in hindsight, but like Raoni Barcelos, I think everybody knew had some talent before then. I think there was just a little bit of a hype train behind Peyton Talbot. Would you say so, Eric? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's well deserved. I think Peyton Talbot. I think you're right on about Peyton Talbot. I might have a couple bets on him to end 2026 as the bantamweight champ, honestly. Depending on what the odds.
That night, actually, that was a UFC 311, if I'm not mistaken. That night, a lot of undefeated fighters lost, I think. And what was it? Tagir, I think, was close to also being added to that list. But yeah, that was a crazy night.
He won by split decision. I forget who he fought though.
Yes, tough fight for him, and that kind of goes into my honorable mention as far as the hype train that was created around Peyton Talbot, Reinier de Ridder over Bo Nickel. That one I felt like just shocked everyone. There was, in terms of hype trains, Bo Nickel was like probably the face of that coming into this year. So That was
100%.
crazy.
And that was another fighter that people slept on. I mean, I don't know where I stood even anymore, where I thought that fight was going to go, but Reiner Ritter had been highly accomplished and a veteran fighter. No one really should have been counting him out there. That was not the greatest of bookings.
Yeah, and and I don't know how much I can add to that. That was definitely a tough one.
That one was a shocker.
Yeah, but guys, let's talk about outside of the UFC. Who is your best fighter outside of the UFC? Scott, I'll throw this one over to you. Who do you have?
So I'm going with Vadim Nemkov, the PFL heavyweight champion, and my rationale here is, and I think you can kind of take this how you want to, but the way I'm thinking is, of all the men and women outside of the UFC who had, like, let's say a big win in 2025, like a notable win, I think he's the one who I would most want to see crossover to see how he would fare against the UFC competition there. He just mauled Renan Ferreira this month. He might be able to do that to the UFC heavyweight champion. Who knows? I want to see it. That's where I'm at. I would have maybe gone with somebody like a Dakota Ditcheva, but she didn't really have like a massive fight this year. It was more of like a stay busy fight. So I'm not. I kind of was cool to that, but also she's the same kind of deal.
Yeah, fair enough. Eric, who do you have before I give my pick?
Yeah, so I went with Usman Nurmagomedov, and the reason that I did that is because I think really highly of Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes probably going to be a free agent soon, so I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's in the UFC within by the end of 2026 or beginning of 2027. So for me, I'd like to see Usman Nurmagomedov get into the UFC and maybe compete for belts. He'd be ranked top 5 instantly. I believe Fight Matrix had him top 5 for 155. So for me, I think Usman Nurmagomedov is the best fighter outside the UFC. I mean, you hear the stories too. Like, I even interviewed Umar Nurmagomedov, and they're just singing Usman's praises, and they think that he's this, he's that. You hear a lot of chatter about him, and obviously, look, they're his teammates, but sometimes unprompted, you'll hear compliments about how amazing Usman Nurmagomedov is. So for me, I'll go Usman Nurmagomedov, and I'd love to see him in the UFC. And I think that Paul Hughes is also destined for the UFC. So from my perspective, I think that those two things really build his value even more.
Yeah, and now that Islam Makhachev is not at 155 anymore, that kind of opens up the pathway for that hadn't really been there before. So father's dream times 3 potentially.
Yeah.
For my best fighter beyond the UFC, I'm gonna go with someone who you were very high on, Eric. I'm actually surprised that you didn't pick this person, Thad Jean.
Yep.
I feel like he was exactly what the PFL needed. Not to say that it has given everything that the PFL has been looking for this year and what they hoped for in terms of star power. However, there definitely was some star power lacking, and I feel like this is a hole that he proverbially filled, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, he has the personality. He's got the fight stats to back it up. He went on to win the tournament this year at welterweight. So I'm picking Thad Jean. I feel like he's really a homegrown fighter outside of the UFC, and he's done everything to earn this award, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's coming in the mail, guy.
Yeah, it's coming in the mail. Any honorable mentions for you guys?
Thad Jean's a good one. I would have had Thad Jean as a breakout just because I don't think he's the best fighter in the PFL at his division or anything like that. He's
a good one for non-UFC breakout. That's a good one.
That's
non-UFC
sort of how
breakout. Thad Jean's top. No
That's
doubt.
sort of how what I went with. I know that did not understand the prompt, but
it's still a really good good shout out.
Yeah.
Thad Jean wasn't fighting like 4 or 5 years ago, and now he's a PFL champion.
Yeah.
I mean,
tournament winner though. I guess you could say it.
Just like Joshua Van.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Joshua Van, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw the tweet that I put out there. Joshua Van made his UFC debut since the last time Conor has fought.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking wild.
His career exists in the time post Conor fighting.
Hope you're ready for the Conor show at the White House in June. See you there.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. I believe it when he's on the South Lawn.
When he's doing the walk.
Yeah, when he's walking out from the
touching
Oval
gloves.
Office.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, guys, in the comments, please let us know whether or not you agreed with our decisions and our picks. Who got them right out of the 3 of us? I'm looking for a victory in that regard. But yeah, let us know if we forgot anyone. And maybe some awards that we could do for next year's mid-year awards as well. And what should we call these? The Cagies, the Against the Cage
The
awards.
Cagies.
The Cagies. Let us know down
The
below. What do you
Gundies,
guys
the
think?
the Cagies.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Cagies.
Yeah. All right. Well, Scott,
The
I'm going to let you take it away for quick hits to round out our last show of 2025. We'll get into the semantics of that later. But Scott, what do you got for quick hits?
It's a light week, but especially I'm leading with something big, and it relates not only to PFL like we were just talking about, but also that camp that we were just talking about. Movlid Habulayev has tested positive for recombinant EPO from his in-competition sample with USADA when he defeated Jesus Pinedo for that PFL featherweight tournament crown earlier this year, back in August 1st. He is suspended for exactly 1 year. He'll be back in this coming August. He's eligible to come back. PFL has stripped him of the title. They've taken the belt. They've taken back any bonuses, the works. It's all gone. No word yet, though, whether the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board, the fight was in Atlantic City, is going to overturn that win. I'd expect so, but that's just to be determined. And then let's say a little more exciting news, things to look forward to next year that are more positive. We had a bunch of fight announcements for UFC 326, which is coming in March. Two of the biggest ones that I'll highlight for you here: Caio Borralho against Reinier de Ritter. That was a fight that potentially was going to be the number one contenders fight in that little mini tournament. This is in the consolation bracket, it would seem. But then there's also Renato Moicano going against Brian Ortega. That's going to be at 155 pounds. It does seem, I mean, we can only hope that Brian Ortega's finally done just killing himself to get to 45.
Absolutely. For the Movlid Habulayev, it's like the South Park meme being like, and it's gone.
And it's gone.
And
Poof.
Literally. Poof, it's gone. And it's gone.
Exactly. No, but yeah, I definitely agree.
Don't mess around with recombinant EPO. I mean, there's no excuse for it. That
No.
is lab made, sir. You cannot find that in a natural person.
No.
That is legitimately true.
So the PFL still uses USADA.
Yes.
They do.
I think for now, I think that's short-lived, though. I don't know if that'll be forever.
I do believe so. I mean, look, we're going back to August, right? This happened in August. Even if they've terminated, I believe they are moving away, if not have already moved away. That's still part of the process they were paying for. So.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Well, let's get on to the final round of 2025. We've got two things to go over because I was out last week. Thank you guys again, by the way, for
technically three, yeah.
Technically three. Excuse me. Thank you guys for holding down the fort last week while I was out. Let's start with the most recent assignment: Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes, number 1 and 2. I watched both of these on the flight back home yesterday. By the way, highly recommend it if you do get. Delta has free Wi-Fi, so shout out to them. Actually, super great. It was one of the best forms of in-flight entertainment I've actually ever had. The flight went by like so quick. It was great. There was 2 times watching both of these fights. I think I did it once for each fight where I had to check if my speed was higher than 1x because of like how fast these guys were going. I'm not kidding. Twice I checked just because they were doing this so much, and like even when they were just, like,
that's fair.
Even when they were like stepping, I was like, that looked way too quick. Like, unbelievable.
Young Jose Aldo was something else, man. I mean, obviously Mendes is moving too, but young Jose Aldo was a thing that nobody really understands unless you go back and watch.
That first fight, chills. Like, just the going out into the cage. I've seen that moment before, but I did not know that was this fight. Unreal. Like, just
following
so
that,
cool.
Just an impressive knockout too. I mean, It was like he's trying to fight off takedowns, and all of a sudden, in like just a moment, right before the bell, boom, over. It was just crazy. The knee, and then the follow-up punch, which was deadly accurate, flying in there. A lot of times they miss that punch. That was like pinpoint.
Unbelievable. Eric, what did you think?
Yeah, the pre-USADA day, Jose Aldo was an absolute beast back in 2012. Phenomenal. I mean, so fast, so strong, so powerful, and like even just look at his body. I mean, his body looks so different between 2012 and then you see him later in 2015. 2016 is just, I mean, Jose Aldo, one of the best, if not the best featherweight of all time, honestly. I mean, it's him and Max Holloway, right?
Definitely some arguments to be made.
He is number 1 for me. It's very hard to beat his legacy.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, I think he did so much. One of these days, I'm going to assign a Jose Aldo, the early years, so you can watch his WEC run where he really built the momentum, because it was he was a little buzzsaw, man.
I've watched the biopic that was the Brazilian biopic on him, but I actually watched that a while ago. I watched that when I was like,
I watched that as well.
yeah, like in 2014, 2015, before I was like actually into
That doesn't do
MMA.
justice to his actual fights. That's just his story, which is wonderful too. But
yeah. But as far as the second fight goes, that third round might be one of my favorite rounds I've ever watched. Like, actually,
one of the best ever.
I when I finished that round, I was like, that's up there for me, top 10. Like, of all time.
It was absolutely fight of the year when it happened.
I was going to ask you.
I mean, it's known as one of the best fights ever. I've watched that fight a bunch of times. It's a good cardio fight. If you're ever like looking to like run on the treadmill, maybe it's raining outside or whatever, throw that on the treadmill and you'll be reaching some PRs watching that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
did you watch that one live, Eric? Were you already on the sport or no?
No, I wasn't there yet. I didn't get in until McGregor knocked out Aldo. I got in there. I got in right then.
Yeah, and
so your entry point was to watch this greatest fighter of all time have his downfall in like
pretty much, yeah.
Well, that was
went back afterwards. Afterwards, I watched all of it and like I learned about Aldo and his WEC days and all that jazz. But yeah, pretty much. I got in. I think the first fight I ever watched live was when McGregor knocked out Aldo.
That was like me for Chris Cyborg. I watched the John Jones-Gustafsson fight, and I was like, oh, wow, Amanda Nunes just absolutely murdered Chris Cyborg.
Gosh, this Chris Cyborg, does she always lose? Literally just this fight and her first one ever. That's it.
Yeah, literally.
No, but that was crazy. I mean, obviously, besides the loss to Conor McGregor, they kind of mentioned this on the broadcast. They said that second Chad Mendes fight was like the toughest test of Jose Aldo's career at that point. Would that be fair to say?
It was.
Yeah.
I think so. I honestly, like, obviously you can say what you want about the way he lost to Conor and everything. I'll maintain to this day they didn't decide who was the better fighter. He landed the better strike on that night in that moment. I would have loved to have seen a rematch. I'm not even saying Conor couldn't have won it, but I just didn't get enough answers from that night. But that fight alone, that for being what it was a big test along the way. No one had pushed in, I think, even before or since, like let's say in his prime, you know.
The longest homework assignment we would have is the Conor McGregor experience, and it would have to include some of the press conferences because those were really big in terms of like the buildup of fights. I know with the eye roll, I hear you, but Aldo was beaten before he got into that ring, and then Conor wins the way he does, and then he has a pullout. You know, a few months later, maybe 4 or 5 months later, when he was supposed to fight Rafael dos Anjos, and they offered the fight to Aldo, and he rejected it. So it's kind of it's hard. The rematch thing is tough when he was offered it and turned it down. That's the only thing with me and Aldo.
I will give you that. But like, just the idea that he took that belt, he was immediately off. He didn't want to fight him anymore. He was like, I'm winning this belt, but now I'm done with this weight class. I'm not even going to defend it. He didn't have the mind of defending it anyway.
No, he didn't. He had no intention of defending that belt.
So I think there's blame to be on both sides, right?
Fair enough. But let's get to. I was just talking about, watching fights on a plane being an enjoyable experience. This next one was one where I actually was like a little bit, maybe this isn't the right fight to be watching on a plane. I kind of turn around and make sure there wasn't like an old lady sitting behind me. Sorry, excuse me.
If there is, you got to show it to her. She might want to see it.
That's true. She's like, wait, could you turn the brightness up actually? Yeah, a lot of blood.
Jumped in and was like, is that Renato Sabro versus David Heath?
Exactly. Renato Babalu.
Yeah,
Babalu did not like David Heath very much. That was brutal, man.
He called him MFer.
Yeah, it's like Dustin Poirier and like Islam Makhachev. Sometimes people just don't like being called that, and they take it very personally. Not that Dustin Poirier took the same amount of damage that David Heath did, but
he also was a little more not a jerk.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. You can't not let go of a tap. That's kind of insane. I don't know what to say about it. It's actually bewildering. And
were you off put when you watched it? Like, were you kind of like angry at him a little bit?
Well, I edited last week's episode, so I knew what was going to happen.
So you knew
unfortunately,
a little, yeah.
I'm gonna break the fourth wall a little bit.
But when you watched it though, I mean, you're still seeing it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty unsettling, I would say. And I haven't seen in person, like I believe Eric, you said you've seen this sometimes, whether it's competitions or what have you. You can't do it. Like that's like it's basically assault.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Like the
No,
Kinda
it's
is.
attempted murder at some level.
yeah. So that was tough.
I mean, a few more seconds, you never know.
2 more
That's
seconds. I always get nervous when referees don't know if someone's out. That always scares me the most. Is like if it's like he's out, and then like no one ever comes,
Mhm.
and it's like takes too long. I always start like that's when you'll see me scream at the
Yep.
TV. It's usually due to late stoppages where I'm like he's been out for 5 seconds. You have to pull him off.
Yep.
Or TKOs where it's like no more, stop.
honestly
no
the
more.
submissions.
That's why this
were-
was so egregious.
Yeah, the submissions are for me. I completely agree with you, Eric. More so for me than the TKOs. Like cuts and stuff. Obviously, it's brutal, and like concussions aren't great. But like you hear horror stories from people not letting go, or like people outside of professional settings where they're just like fooling around, and someone gets put into a chokehold. And they don't know how long to let go for, and it's just terrible. So let go.
I'd
Respect
have
the
almost
tap.
not that I would pick this, but I would say if he had got him in an arm bar and he tapped and he's like, no, I'm breaking it. I almost would have felt better about it. I'm not saying it would have been good. It's still a dirtbag move, but like at the very least, you break your arm, you heal your arm, you're gonna be okay. Brain damage or knee damage, something to your knees and stuff. These are pretty rough ones, and I thought that holding the choke maliciously like that, it's kind of unforgivable. So I don't really feel bad that he never got back into the UFC. I don't. I think he probably he punched his ticket out and it was deserved, but
Yes.
it's unfortunate because he was a really talented fighter, and I would have liked to see him in some more matchups on the UFC side.
Brain being deprived of oxygen for an extended period of time is not a joke. It's not funny, and
Horrible.
he deserves to be kicked out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to a lighter note. And Scott, what happened? Or what? Sorry, excuse me. What is our next homework assignment to go into next year?
So since we don't have any fights live this coming weekend, I think I saw this as a good opportunity. I'm going to give you guys a full event to watch, and that's UFC 84. I chose this one because this was the first fight I ever watched live. March 24th, 2008. I was working for my local county newspaper at the time. I had just graduated college. I think I just walked that week. And my coworker at the time, Brendan Cuddy, he now covers the Yankees for The Athletic. He invited me to his friend's house. We watched the event there. The rest is history. I have a playlist for you guys. I set it up. We can put that in the episode description for you. I would say feel free to only watch the main card, but I actually put the entire prelims in order as well, which you couldn't watch at the time. They didn't have prelims like available live unless you were in the arena.
Right.
There we go. Scott Fontana, shout out,
Man.
setting that
Is there
up.
commentary? Is there commentary or no?
On the prelims? Oh yeah.
Okay.
But again, those prelims, call those extra credit.
Yeah.
That is a good question, Eric. Because if they weren't airing it, why would there be commentary on it?
Because at the time, they used to have the possibility that they would air those fights to fill time during the pay-per-view.
Oh, that's
and that
right.
happens sometimes. Yes. I don't believe it did in this case. But yeah. And also, I mean, why not do it? Because what if they have highlights they want to do and all that kind of stuff? Maybe they use it later on in their
Promo
they had
packages,
UFC. Oh gosh, what was it called? It wasn't called Unfiltered. I'm trying to remember what the heck
It was Unfiltered.
was it. UFC Unleashed? There was the
Unleashed.
they used to have a show. It was like they'd package a couple of fights together and you'd watch it like over a course of an hour as like a highlight show back on Spike
UFC
TV.
Unleashed. Yes, that was UFC.
And maybe they would take those fights for that as well. So there's no reason not to commentate those. In fact, you've watched the first fight from that card. It was Shane Carwin against Christian Wellish.
Part of the Shane Carwin experience, yes.
Shane Carwin experience, that's right. So you've seen that one, and that's the lead into everything else. Like I said, extra credit. If you guys want to watch the whole thing, I'm going to watch the whole thing because I would love to see what it would be like if we watched it like today while also reliving the first one I ever watched. But you do you guys.
Excited, and I will be putting that in the description. If you have Fight Pass, it's a Fight Pass playlist, correct?
It is a Fight Pass playlist, absolutely. You need Fight Pass, but if you got Fight Pass, I've got you covered. No searching, nothing. You got a link. You're good.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. Isn't there a free fight pass for a little bit?
60 days, I believe that started December 1st, so you get it until February 1st.
There
I
we
gotta
go.
look at. I'm not sure if they still have the offer up, but if you Google UFC Fight Pass free, I believe it was 60 days starting December 1. So if it's still out there, you're welcome.
There we go. All right, all right.
Also, sign up for Walmart Plus if you want Paramount Plus. It's the best deal.
There we go. Eric making money and saving money for our viewers. Scott, what do you got for this week in MMA?
We're going back pretty far, 28 years ago to December 21st, 1997, UFC Japan, their first foray into Asia in the early days. You had Randy Couture. He became the heavyweight champion for the first time, beating Maurice Smith. Frank Shamrock tapped out Kevin Jackson in just 22 seconds, became the first champion of what would become the light heavyweight division. It was called middleweight at that time. Kazushi Sakuraba, he won a 4-man, one-night heavyweight tournament that really ended up just being him fighting Marcus Silveiro 2 times. They had an early stoppage in the early one. Tank Abbott, winner on the early card, was not able to fight later on, so they just kind of ran that back to get a rather than a no contest like it was the first one. They had it go again. Early stoppage by a young referee named Big John McCarthy, guys. And also Vitor Belfort got a submission victory on this card too. So 28 years ago, a lot of names you kind of heard about for a long time. This is when they were still in the spotlight.
All right, all right. I mean, might be going back soon to Japan. Tatsuya Taira. I've been hearing a little bit about that from Mr.
There's
Dana
the rumble
White.
they want to do it. We'll see if it ends up happening, right?
Exactly. And for those who do want to, this might be in the same vein in terms of Japan. What's one more fight?
It sure is, my friends. We are going with the New Year's Eve show in Japan from Rizin. It is called, and I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to do my best here. Rizin Shiwasu no Cho Suwamono Matsuri. That is your event, guys. I think I actually hit it.
I think that's pretty dang good.
On the back of that one.
Yeah.
Not even
That was
close.
pretty darn good.
You
Not
get the
even
KG
close.
award. Scott Fontana, this is for you. It's coming in the mail.
No, I think Eric's right. I messed it up. Sorry. But Eric's a resident pronunciation guide, as we know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can actually start checking it out on December 30th at 11 p.m. Eastern time on Ryzen.tv. It is a pay-per-view, $20. But guys, this, like I said it a few weeks ago, like fights don't get as good as this. I think it was an ACA event. This is the one. This is the real deal, because
Moving the
what we have
goalposts.
here we have 5 title fights, guys. All 10 fighters are top 50 worldwide. 7 of them are in the top 25, including the consensus #1 atomweight woman in the world, Saika Izawa, who has been just dominant at 105 pounds. Yes, 105. Top 20 men on the card include a couple of featherweights, Rajabali Shaidulayev and Karshia Doubtbeck. They're both coming from the Central Asia region. I think we got Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, respectively. And also flyweight Hiromasa Ojikubo, who, I don't know if you guys watched this season of The Ultimate Fighter. He was one of the competitors that season when they had all the flyweight champions, including Pantoja, including Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France. He was part of that mix. A really impressive group, and he is still doing his thing. There are a couple of fights down card that kind of would really drag down the event rating on this one. So I'll tell you this, with those on the card, these, like, they're basically prospect or like debutante fights. With those on the card, it's an event rating of an 11. Take those 3 out, you've got 12 fights left. The event rating is 40.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's better than any UFC Apex card. We're talking about like a legit, true, impressive show. And honestly, I know you probably hear $20 and you're like, I don't really want to spend that. And look, I'm not going to tell you to spend your money, but man, I think you could do it and be pretty happy with it. It's a fun way to. Japan does New Year's Eve like no other with fights. I think you got to experience it at some point.
All right, all right. And hey, we're going into 2026. No more pay-per-views left for UFC. So I mean, $20 seems like not.
Got a little more in the budget. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could maybe shave it aside. I get no kickbacks from this. They don't give me anything. I don't even get emails from Ryzen. I don't think so. Yeah,
No,
it's
For
I would
the
go
love
watch
of
it,
the
though.
game.
Yeah.
For the love of the game. That's
Exactly.
right. If you're a hardcore fight fan, if you're not a casual, I'm telling you, you're definitely watching this.
There we go. You heard it from Scott Fontana himself. guys, this is our last show of 2025. We're not going to be doing one next week. We'll have some stuff clipped out from this show, but if you made it this far, I'm not exactly sure if you have much of a reason to watch it, but unless you want to give us some extra views, that'd be very lovely. But
Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be seeing you guys on January 8th, if my memory serves correctly. But Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone watching back home, and to my co-hosts Scott Fontana and Erich Richter. Happy New Year. Enjoy it safely and responsibly. And we
missed you last week. Happy Hanukkah, Jake.
Oh, thank you very much.
I know it's over, but yeah.
Yes, Happy Hanukkah to all of my fellow Jews who celebrated as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys in 2026, and have a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, all.
New Year. Happy holidays.